Paldea Evolved is almost here, and today we are looking at the Trainer and Special Energy cards. This is the final day of card review, and I am so glad that you have followed me through this journey and looking at all these cards. I'm super excited for the set. I hope you are too. Welcome to Jank Play TCG. My name's Landon, and here we play Jank. And so, like I said, today I'm going to be looking at the trainer cards and special energy. And of course, I am still using the Justin Basil website. Fantastic website. I think they have a really good combination of card image and translation here for us. Probably by now we are seeing a lot of English scans. Of course, I pre-recorded all these videos, giving myself a little bit of break before really jumping into Paldea. So, excuse the non-English scans of the cards, but I don't think it really matters too much. But I am just super excited to get my hands on Paldea Evolved. Honestly, I think today, the day that this video goes out, you can actually play with Paldea Evolved in PTCGL, so I'll definitely be using way too many credits and trying to build something for the following week. And I hope you'll join me for that. Again, thank you to the Justin Basil website for just being overall awesome. And let's jump into these trainer cards. Of course, the first trainer card, because we go in alphabetical order, is Artisan, and I absolutely love this stadium. Once during each player's turn, that player may search their deck for a basic Pokemon that doesn't have a rule box and put it onto their bench. Then that player shuffles their deck. I mean, I love Mesagoza. I love Mesagoza, but this gets me my basics, which is the thing that I'm most likely doing with Mesagoza. Sometimes I do go for evolutions. You know, there are certain decks that will still want to play Mesagoza, but Artisan early in the game is just so good. Honestly, there might be a situation where I play Mesagoza because I expect my opponent to play Artisan, and hopefully they do, so I can get my basics and then Mesagoza and flip for my evolutions. I think Artisan is going to be a very easy replacement for Mesagoza in a lot of decks. So, yeah, I absolutely love that stadium, and I hope you guys do too. Next up, we have Boss's Orders. This is just a reprint. We know what this is. It's got, what's his name? Getsis on as the art. Okay. Don't, roast me in the comments too much. Although, if you really want to argue about this, go ahead. I did not love Black and White. So much so, I did not play Black and White 2, which I do hear is far superior. I just can't get into it because of the bad taste that Black and White left in my mouth. I just wish it was better, so I don't really care about Getsits. I'm sorry. We do have Bravery Charm, though, as a tool card coming in. The basic Pokemon this card is attached to gets 50 HP. That is massive, and it's basically Cape of Toughness that we saw in the Sword and Shield era, reprinted under a different name. Gives basically the same effect. That card was huge, and it's going to be huge here as well. I already have a plan for this in a deck with a Lowland Executor V. It's a silly deck, but I'm hoping to get some good wins, and I hope it'll make people laugh. But yeah, I think this card is going to see a lot of play, and people are going to love it. Next up, we have Clamatious Snowy Mountain. Whenever a player attaches an energy card from their hand to one of their basic non-water Pokemon, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. Now, at first, this made me think of Old Cemetery, because it has a similar effect for Psychics. However, Clamatious Snowy Mountain specifies that it has to be a basic Pokemon, which just makes it so much worse. We're not really in a basic heavy format. We're in a V-Star and V-Max heavy format. And so most people will just be attaching cards to their evolved Pokemon V, and even then, 2 damage counters I don't think is enough to really make it a big enough threat for people to worry about. They're going to take the 2 damage, and they're going to try to get their beefy boys up and running, you know? So I do like the idea. I wish it didn't specify basic, like I said, similar to Old Cemetery for Psychic Pokemon. That specification really makes it a little bit worse than Old Cemetery. So Yeah, it's hard to be excited about this, you know? I don't know if there's a better water-focused stadium out currently. I know there's that one that lowers damage by 20. I don't know if that one's even better. I don't know. It's just up in the air, you know? Next up, we have Clemacious Wasteland. The retreat cost of your non-fighting basic Pokemon is 1 colorless more. Again, it specifies basic Pokemon. Yeah, it's the flip of Beach Court. Beach Court lowers the basic Pokemon retreat cost by 1. This increases your basic Pokemon retreat by 1 unless they're a fighting basic. And if they've evolved up, you don't have to worry about it. That specification of basic really harms this deck at being any good. And trust me, I played Spidops. I took Spidops to the Portland Regionals. I would love something that increases retreat costs. But this ain't it. This ain't it. Next up, we do have Choice Belt. This is just a reprint. We already have Choice Belt in the format, and the text hasn't changed. I thought they would have updated it to include Pokemon EX, but they did not, so clearly we're going to have something else to target EXs in the future. Sad we don't have it yet, but being able to target Pokemon V is still really good, and Choice Belt is a great way to do it. So, you know what Choice Belt does. The attacks of the Pokemon this card is attached to do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon V. That's simple. Next up, we have Clavel. Search your deck for up to 3 basic Pokemon with 120 HP or less, reveal them, put them in your hand, then shuffle your deck. Yeah, it's not a bad search card. It's a lot of limitations, and I like to compare these types of supporters to, what was it, Adventures Discovery or something like that, where you just get to search for 3 Pokemon V, put them in your hand. That's it. That's the only limitation. They have to be Pokemon V. They can be V, V-Star, V-Max, but they have to be Pokemon V. So I question these types of cards when we have Adventures Discovery. Why is there a limit on this? They could just say 3 basic Pokemon, reveal them, put them in your hand. Okay, even then, that limitation hurts. I think there already has been a card printed that searches your 3 basic Pokemon, and you put them in your hand. Or maybe you put them directly on the bench. I don't know. But that doesn't see play. This, I don't think, is going to see play, sadly. Next up, we do have Delivery Drone. Flip 2 coins. If both are heads, search your deck for a card, put it in your hand, then shuffle your deck. I think this could be a fun card. I don't think it's something that's reliable, though. Flipping 2 coins and needing both to be heads is a tall order. That means only 25% of the time are you actually going to be finding a card. So if you play 4 copies of this, you might be able to search 1 card out of all the cards you play. I don't think that's good enough odds to include this. It's basically a dead card 75% of the time. I'm not a fan. Not a fan. And not just because coin flips rarely go in my favor. Next up, we do have Dendra. Put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck, then draw cards until you have 5 cards in hand. If you have no other cards in hand, you can't play this card. I actually really like this. I love cards that let you save cards for later. I build very janky decks, so a bunch of discard cards can really hurt the flow of the deck. And I've come to really appreciate Squirvet and Bibriel as a draw engine. And then you add Dendra to this, and being able to put a card on the bottom of your deck, then draw up till you have 5. I wish it was more than putting 1 card on the bottom. Similar to Serena, if we could put 3 cards, up to 3 cards on the bottom, then draw up until 5, I'd be way more excited. However, Dendra works very well with Squirvet, so you can just use Squirvet, go down to a 1-card hand. Well, I guess that doesn't work because you need Dendra and another card. However, you'll barrel after that, draw up. If you have Dendra in that hand, play a few cards, Dendra again, and draw up. I'm seeing synergy there, and I hope there's plenty more where it comes from. I like it. Will it see a lot of play? Probably not. It's way weaker than Professor's Research, but as a jank player, I see a lot of potential for decks that may not function correctly, but function under these circumstances. So I'm personally excited, but I don't think you're going to see this in a lot of top-ranking decks, if that makes any sense. Next up, we have Falconer. Draw 2 cards if you have a stadium in play. Draw 2 more cards. That's a draw 4 if you have a stadium in play. Plenty of stadiums to play. Now, it does specify it has to be your stadium, which is kind of the weakness of Falconer. Are you going to be playing a lot of stadiums? If yes, then maybe Falconer works for you as a pure draw 4. But you still got to fight for that against your opponent, and that could be very difficult. I like it, but I don't think it's going to see any play, really. Sadly. Next up, we do have Fighting Aulate? Fighting Aulate. I don't know how to say that. You can play this card only if you have more prizes remaining than your opponent. Heal 60 damage from one of your Pokemon. Healing 60 is generally Pokemon Center Lady, which is a supporter. So being able to play that just because you're behind on prizes, I think this is a phenomenal card, and any healing focused deck should seriously consider it. I think the only downside is that if you are not behind on prizes, you can't play the card. You can't get it out of your hand for any throwaway type effect. Even if it was just heal 10 damage or something like that, if you're ahead on prizes, heal 10. If you're behind on prizes, heal 60, you know? So, sorry. Yeah, I think that's the biggest weakness of this card, but I could seriously see a lot of play in healing specific decks. I think healing specific decks will really like this because 60 damage is a lot of healing. Next up, we have one heck of a card in Gaikamo. Gaikamo, I think. I don't know. Discard a special energy from each of your opponent's Pokemon. This could be very big, and it could also just fall flat. I think of something like Arceus and Lugia, which are both still very popular in the meta. How maybe they don't have a lot of special energy out on the field, or a lot of special energy on a lot of different Pokemon out on the field. Lugia, in Lugia, your main attacker will probably have special energy, and maybe a backup attacker they're getting ready, and you discard one special energy from them. Is that enough to really justify this being in your deck? I don't know. And same with Arceus, where maybe they have the double turbo and an energy on their active, but they had just attacked and they put a bunch of basic on their bench. Is it enough to justify this inclusion? I don't know, but something like Fusion Strike Mew V Max, where they're going to be playing the Fusion Strike energy, and Alyssa, or Eliza, or however you say that card name, puts energy on the active and another Pokemon, or just 2 Pokemon that they select. Well, that can target both those energies, and that can really weaken Meloetta. I can see this being useful. It's really going to be a meta call on how often this sees play. Lost Box is obviously a basic energy deck. You don't really play a lot of special energy. So is this going to be good enough? It's a big question mark. It's really going to be about, does the meta support this or not? But it's a really interesting card at the very least. I like that you discard special energy from each of them, so it can be a big swing and really mess up your opponent. But at the same time, it could just be the equivalent of Enhanced Hammer, which was an item card that discard 1, except this is a supporter, you know? So, I don't know. It's interesting. I love it. I think it's a great design space, but it's very meta dependent. And next up, we have Great Ball. We all know what Great Ball does. Great Ball's great. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. You may reveal a Pokemon you find there. Shuffle the other cards back into your deck. Yeah, I love it. I like that. I'm pretty sure we got Pokeball in the last set. We get Great Ball in this set, and that means Yamper is back in action. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I have a deck about Yamper into Bolt Hunt. It's a fun deck, and yeah, I recommend checking that out. But Great Ball and Pokeball were important in that deck, and we got Great Ball back, so that's great. Next up, I guess that's a G, so Gersha. Draw cards until you have 5 cards in hand. If you have no energy cards attached to any of your Pokemon, draw up to 7 cards instead. Not a fan. Now, I like to try to play 0 energy decks. I think they're some of the most fun decks out there. there's not a lot currently. That's the downside. And this card, it's one of those things of like, maybe you have an energy that you could equip, and if you draw up till you have 5 cards, you could equip that one energy to draw up more, but you can draw up to 7 instead. That's interesting for the beginning of the game. Later on in the game, I don't think this is going to be quite as useful, because you're going to be getting energy out on the field, and this just won't be drawing you enough. Drawing up till 7 cards is huge. I love it. That's why Professor's research is so big, or one of the reasons. But this, I just don't think, is a good enough trade-off. Most of the time you're going to be drawing until you have 5 cards in hand, and I just don't think that is worth it, you know. Next up, we have the GOAT, the best card possibly coming in the set, Iono. Each player shuffles their hand, puts it at the bottom of their deck, then each player draws a card for each of their remaining prize cards. If you've been around for a while, you know of the card N, and how N was considered the great equalizer. And Iono seems to be the better great equalizer. Seriously, N was just shuffle your hand into your deck, then draw how many prizes you have. This is shuffle your hand, put it at the bottom of your deck so you know you're not going to see those cards, and then you draw for each prize. So if your opponent has 1 prize remaining and you play Iono, they go down to 1 card in their hand, and that can be rough to come back from. Sure, Bibriel is a popular draw engine, but it can still be rough to come back from. So Iono, the great equalizer, but better. Fantastic card. You're going to put 4 ofs in your decks for the most part. Maybe 3 ofs, but you're going to put a lot of Iono in your deck, because just like N, it was, I play Iono, then your opponent, I play Iono, and then your opponent, you know, and you just go back and forth playing N, playing Iono, and trying to get the upper hand, and it's fantastic. Highly recommend playing this card. Next up, we have Practice Studio. The attacks of each player's Stage 1 Pokemon do 10 more damage to their opponent's active. I love that they are giving evolution Pokemon something. Something. A Stage 1 deck could take this and do 10 more damage. But it's only 10 damage. That's not a lot. I want more. In a Zorobox deck, I think this is a very good card to have, because you're playing a Stage 1 heavy deck. In a lot of decks, though, I don't know how useful this is. I mean, if you are playing a Stage 1 attacker, maybe, but even then, it's hard to recommend that when you have other things like Artisan and Mesagoza that just make you more consistent. This is 10 more damage. I just don't see it being worth that trade-off. 20? 30 more damage? Oh yes, 30 more damage, that would be worth the trade-off. 20 might be that question point, but 10 I just don't think is enough. If you are playing a Stage 1 deck and you are constantly 10 damage short, maybe you play Practice Studio and you make up that difference, but I just don't see that being a common theme. Next up, we have Saguro. Heal 50 damage from up to 2 of your Pokemon. This is really dependent on what kind of decks you play. Healing 50 damage from 2 of your Pokemon can be huge. Is it going to be? I don't know. Are you playing a heal heavy deck? Then you're probably going to play this. If you're not, then you're probably not going to play this. It's highly dependent on your strategy. And so it's hard to recommend this, but it's there for people that like it. Next up, we have Super Rod. Finally, we have item-based Pokemon recovery. We were missing Ordinary Rod. Those were a hard few months. Having to play Miriam to recover Pokemon, and then play a different card to recover energy. It was rough. Super Rod, shuffle up to 3 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy cards from your discard pile into your deck. Sure, it's not the 4 that Ordinary Rod was, 2 Pokemon, 2 energy, but you can shuffle nothing but energy or nothing but Pokemon, or mix and match if you want. It's got that flexibility, and that flexibility I think does deserve it to be 1 less card. So yeah, Super Rod's going to be fantastic. Going to see a lot of play, and I've already been thinking about swapping out some cards in some already built decks for Super Rod. Next up, we have Superior Energy Retrieval. You can only play this card if you discard up to 2 other cards from your hand, put 4 basic energy cards from your discard pile into your hand, then choose... you can't choose a card you discard with the effect of this card. Pretty sure we've seen Superior Energy before. It's the same thing, it's just a reprint, but it can be a serious game changer. Anything that can accelerate a ton of energy, this is probably what you're going to be wanting to use. You do have to discard 2 cards, so that means 3 cards in total. Superior Energy Retrieval, and then 2 other cards that you have to have in hand in order to play this to get 4 energy back. But that's pretty good. That's a lot of energy in one turn, and that could be a huge swing. And that brings us to the end of the trainers, but we still got a few more cards because we are looking at special energy here. I've already seen some of these, I've already talked about some of these, but let's go ahead and go through them individually, right? First off, we have Jet Energy. As long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides a colorless energy. When you attach this card from your hand to one of your benched Pokemon, switch that Pokemon with your active Pokemon. I love it. You attach to a benched Pokemon and you can switch it into the active. Before we had Warp Energy, where you attached it to the active to switch it out of the active. I did not like that at all. You were attaching energy to a Pokemon you were not planning to attack with because you were switching out. It did not see play. However, Jet Energy, I think, could see some serious play. I think it's got just that extra kick of giving someone the ability to switch based off an energy. You know, I think the flexibility in that is so useful. I think it will see play, and I could see some decks take advantage of that. Next up, we have Luminous Energy. It is the new Rainbow, and I love the way that they have treated this. As long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides every type of energy, but only provides 1 energy at a time. Just like Rainbow, just like Aurora Energy before this. If the Pokemon this card is attached to has any other special energy attached to it, this provides 1 colorless energy instead. That is the trade-off. You cannot put multiple Rainbow / Aurora / Luminous Energy anymore. It's just the one to be any type, and then you've got to attach non-special energy. I absolutely love this balance. I think this is the best balanced Rainbow Energy that we've had in a long time. I thought Aurora was pretty good, better than just measly 10 damage on 300 plus HP Pokemon. But Luminous Energy might be even better, seriously. I absolutely love this, and I think it's a great balance overall. Fantastic card, and you know I'm going to play around with this in a lot of ways. Next up, possibly the best special energy to come to the format in a long time, is Reversal Energy. As long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides 1 colorless energy. If you have more prizes remaining than your opponent, and if this card is attached to an evolution Pokemon that doesn't have a rule box, this card provides every type of energy, but only provides 3 energy at a time. Boom! Huge. Absolutely love it. I think this is phenomenal. Not only is it focused on evolution, but non-rule box and a comeback card. It's got everything I want in a card in there. I want more comeback mechanics. I want more evolution, non-rule box focused metas. And this is what's gonna bring it. Absolutely love it. Counter Energy was so good back in Sun and Moon. This thing is even better in my opinion. I can't wait for this. This is going to lead to so many janky decks. You just know it. I love it. Please, more. This could be a fun way to just go nuts. Seriously. Absolutely love it. Can't recommend this enough. And last but not least, the final card in Paldea Evolve, not counting special arts. Therapeutic Energy. I've already talked a bit about this, but let's see what it does. As long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides colorless energy. The Pokemon this card is attached to can't be asleep, confused, or paralyzed, and if it is already affected by one of these special conditions, it recovers from that special condition. And We have Wigglytuff that can accelerate a therapeutic energy to a Pokemon. So we have energy acceleration with this, and they can't go to sleep. Remember yesterday's video, I was talking about Slacking and how I thought that was phenomenal. Put a therapeutic energy on Slacking, and its effect of it goes to sleep and then it's really hard to wake up, eliminated. Therapeutic energy will keep that thing awake, hitting 240 damage. Therapeutic energy is going to be in so many decks, I feel. Plus that Wigglytuff acceleration, you cannot pass up on that. That just seems too big. Right now, honestly, the only thing holding this back is the fact that it is a special energy without special charge back. We need that card back. It was an item card that lets you put 2 special energy from your discard, shuffle them into your deck. I think it's time. I think it's time. We need that card back. We need some way to recover our special energies. And then these cards will really explode. But until then, they're going to be limited. So you got to play smart. And there's a lot of different ways you can play these cards. So thank you so much for watching and going through all these cards. It was a long journey, but we made it. And I really hope breaking this set down by type really helped people in quickly referencing certain cards. I know a lot of YouTubers out there go through the whole set all at once, and it's like a 2+ hour video, and I broke it up. I really hope that makes it easier for people to reference or just watch in general. And if you did watch every single one of my set review videos, I want to thank you so much. I do put a lot of time and effort into this channel, and I just appreciate absolutely everyone that cares to watch, you know. Thank you. Go ahead, if you want, like the video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on all the exciting Paldea Evolved deck lists that I'm going to be having to make here. That will be coming very soon from when this video goes out. And, you know, join the Discord if you want to hang out and say nice things to nice people, because there's a lot of nice people there. And of course, until next time, keep playing Jank.